You tell yourself it's not about money. You tell yourself it's about timing.
You'll start saving when things calm down. You'll invest when you understand it better.
You'll take the risk when you feel ready. For now, you're just getting through the day. Morning starts with numbers you don't look at directly. You check your balance quickly, not long enough to feel it.
You calculate what's due, what can wait. You promise yourself you'll figure it out this weekend. On the way to work, you imagine a different version of your life. Less pressure, more options.
You don't want luxury. You want breathing room. At work, you do what's required. You think about asking for more responsibility. You think about learning something new.
You think about starting something on the side. You think, and then the day fills up. Messages, tasks, noise, touch.
By evening, you're tired enough to choose comfort. You scroll. You watch. You distract yourself just enough to quiet the tension. You tell yourself you deserve it. It doesn't feel reckless. It feels reasonable. That's how it always feels. The difference between rich thinking and poor thinking rarely shows up in dramatic moments. It hides in the small ones.
In the way you interpret inconvenience. In the way you respond to delay.
In the stories you tell yourself about what's possible for you. Poor thinking doesn't look like stupidity. It looks like survival. It says, just get through this month. It says, don't risk what little stability you have. It says, now is not the time. It feels protective. But protection has a cost.
By midweek, you notice a quiet irritation. Someone else got promoted. Someone else launched something. Someone else seems to be moving. You don't resent them. You resent the gap.
The gap between what you know and what you do. Between what you imagine and what you execute. You're not lazy. You're not incapable.
If anything, you're aware. Aware that your effort goes mostly toward maintaining, not building. Aware that your income reflects old decisions. Aware that your evenings disappear into recovery instead of creation.
Confusion sets in first. Why does it feel like you're always behind, even when you're working?
Why does progress feel slow, even when you're busy? Then, frustration.
You try bursts of motivation. A new budget. A new plan. A new promise.
It lasts a few days. Then, routine returns.
Comfort reclaims its seat. Tomorrow quietly moves the target.
By late night, when the house is quiet and distractions thin out, something heavier surfaces. Regret.
Not dramatic regret. Subtle.
Persistent. You think about years, not days.
You think about potential, not purchases. You wonder how much time you've traded for temporary relief.
And then comes numbness. You stop imagining too vividly. You scale down your expectations to protect yourself. You tell yourself you're being realistic. Somewhere under that realism, self-blame waits. You should have started earlier. You should know more by now. You should be further.
But the enemy was never your intelligence. The enemy was comfort that felt harmless, distraction that felt earned, routine that felt safe,
delay that felt strategic, tomorrow that felt responsible. They never shouted. They whispered, rest a little longer, research a little more, wait until you're certain. Rich thinking sounds different, not louder, clearer. It doesn't ask, can I afford this? It asks, how do I build the capacity to afford this? It doesn't see money as something to spend carefully. It sees money as something to grow intentionally. When income increases, poor thinking upgrades lifestyle. Rich thinking upgrades assets. When income increases, poor thinking upgrades lifestyle. Rich thinking upgrades assets.
The actions look similar on the surface. Work, earn, spend, rest.
But the internal dialogue is different. One protects comfort.
The other protects future freedom. There's a moment, usually quiet, where you feel like life is happening around you instead of through you.
You attend meetings. You pay bills.
You celebrate small wins. But underneath, there's a question you avoid.
Is this building anything? Time moves regardless. Markets move regardless. People who decide early compound while others hesitate.
And you feel it. The slow drift. The sense that if nothing changes, 5 years will look suspiciously similar to now. You don't fear hard work.
You fear wasted effort. You don't fear responsibility. You fear stagnation. The gap between who you are and who you could be grows more uncomfortable the more aware you become.
You start noticing patterns. How quickly you justify purchases that make the present easier. How slowly you commit to decisions that make the future stronger. How often you say, "I'll start when," and how rarely that start date arrives. You watch others take imperfect action.
You critique their timing. You question their certainty. But deep down, you recognize something else. They moved before they felt ready. You're waiting to feel different before you act. They acted and became different. That realization sits heavy. You begin to see that rich thinking is not about numbers.
It's about identity. It's about seeing yourself as someone who builds, not someday, now.
But here's the truth. Nothing changes until you stop negotiating with yourself.
Poor thinking negotiates constantly. Just this once.
Just this month. Just until things settle. Rich thinking keeps promises quietly, not loudly, not publicly, internally.
It decides that comfort does not get the final vote. That distraction does not get the final vote. That fear of looking foolish does not get the final vote. Discipline, in this light, isn't harsh.
It's respectful. It says, my future deserves protection.
It says, my time has value. It says, I will not abandon myself for temporary ease.
It's not about waking up earlier or grinding longer. It's about choosing growth when comfort offers relief. It's about saying no to impulses that feel small but compound into patterns. You don't become wealthy the moment your bank account changes.
You become wealthy the moment your standards do. When you stop asking, what do I feel like doing?
And start asking, what builds me? When you stop chasing relief and start choosing responsibility. The same morning can look different.
You check your balance, but you don't look away. You face it.
You see it as feedback, not judgment. The same evening can feel different. Instead of dissolving into distraction, you invest an hour into something that stretches you. Not because you're motivated,
because you decided. The external world may not shift immediately, but internally, something steadies. You begin to trust yourself. And self-trust changes how you think about money. Money becomes less emotional.
Less urgent, less tied to your worth. It becomes a tool you intend to master, not a force you react to. You start to notice how often poor thinking seeks to appear secure, while rich thinking seeks to become capable. One protects image, the other builds strength. The daily differences are subtle. What you read, what you ignore, what you tolerate, what you postpone.
They don't feel life-changing in the moment, but compounded over years, they become identity. And identity compounds faster than interest. So the question isn't whether you work hard. It isn't whether you want more. It's whether you're willing to think differently when no one is watching.
When comfort feels justified. When delay feels reasonable.
When tomorrow feels close enough. Because tomorrow has a way of repeating itself.
And the life you build will reflect the conversations you allow inside your own head. So tonight, when the day quiets down and you feel that familiar tension again,
will you negotiate with yourself? Or will you choose the version of you that builds, even when it's inconvenient?